I lost contact with my childhood friend 4 years ago. Now he's back. When I was 6 years old, I had a friend who lived across the street, Cody. From what I remember, Cody was a weird kid. We never really talked much. Just occasionally we would play together in his backyard in the woods. We lost touch in high school. He was just too quiet, too introverted. I would occasionally speak to him, but never for long. I consider myself better than the other kids at least. I never was the kid that called him names in the hallway or knocked his lunch tray out of his hands. After 11th grade, I never saw or heard of Cody again. Apparently, he moved away to some other state, never bothering to keep in contact with anyone apparently. I didn't know him very well, so I wasn't too butthurt about him not keeping in touch. I just went about my life as though we never met. Fast forward a couple years, I was 21 years old. After graduation, I started attending college out of state, completely having forgotten about Cody, as well as the town I grew up in. That all changed one night at a local bar near my college campus. I had been sitting on a bar stool, sipping my drink, dreading my upcoming tests, wanting to try and relax on a Sunday night. The bar was mostly empty. This was pretty usual here. Around this time, all that's really left are the bums and the washed people who were stumbling out of the bar. I checked the clock hanging on the wall, 2:59 a.m. I really should have been heading back to my dorm, but some part of me decided to stay a bit longer. Sure enough, a minute or so passed, and a man who looked around my age, if not a little younger, sat next to me at the bar. I couldn't quite place a finger on it, but I knew somehow I had met this man, and just as I suspected, he held his hand out to me and flashed a knowing grin. If it isn't David Pageon, long time no see. Just then it clicked. This was Cody Johnson. It took me a moment before I slowly reached my hand out to shake his hand. Didn't think I'd be seeing you again, especially after you left without a goodbye. Cody simply shrugged and pulled his hand back. Sorry about that. I just figured nobody really wanted to keep in touch. I paused and took a moment before I sighed and looked away as I spoke. Yeah, about that. Listen, man. Nobody should have treated you the way that they did. It wasn't right, and you did nothing to deserve it. I still feel bad about not saying anything. Cody was silent before he clapped a hand on my shoulder. Let's not dwell on what we can't change. Nothing good will ever come of that, you know? He then flashed me this charming smile that had me grinning back at in return. We chatted for about half an hour before eventually Cody suggested we meet up behind the house he used to live in, just like old times, saying he'd bring a pack of beers. Of course, I couldn't say no, and I agreed to meet up with him the next afternoon at his old house. The next day, I attended my morning classes as usual. Then when I finished, I got into my car, turned on some Tom Jones, and drove off. The drive felt shorter than it actually was, and I arrived at Cody's old house around 2:56 p.m. I could tell nobody lived in the house anymore, as the grass was overgrown and the windows had been boarded up. As I got out of my car, I glanced around and noticed that Cody hadn't parked his car anywhere, despite the fact that I wasn't early. In fact, I was a little late. I walked around the house anyway, deciding I would just wait for Cody at the spot. But all of a sudden, I heard his voice call out from the woods. Out here, David. I still couldn't get over how Cody didn't seem to have driven a car over here, but I just rationalized it as maybe Cody had parked down the street or something. So I walked into the woods behind the house, the same woods me and Cody would sometimes play in as kids. After a bit of walking, I heard Cody's voice call out again, over here. Closer now. I walked a bit farther into the woods, then I stumbled out into an open area. I was pretty sure this was where Cody was, or at least really close to where I heard him. But as I called out his name, I heard nothing in reply. With a sigh, I walked forward a bit, looking around to see if I could see him, but that's when I saw it. Sticking out of the ground was some sort of... I crouched down to get a better look at it, and when I realized it, my heart dropped to my stomach. What was sticking out of the ground was a bone. I had watched enough movies and crime television to know that a bone shouldn't be just sticking out of the ground like that, and I made haste to call the police. Police arrived, and after digging up the area, sure enough, they had found human remains. My mind was a mixture of swirling thoughts, and a part of me had a sinking feeling of who those remains belonged to. But the rational part of me clung to denial like a lifeline. But the truth came out, and those remains belonged to none other than Cody Johnson. Apparently, he had been missing for years, the police believing that he probably had just run away, which was common for kids his age. But when they discovered Cody's remains behind his parents' old house, that obviously raised suspicions. The police tracked down Cody's parents, and they were found halfway across the country in Nevada. When questioned, the father demanded to speak with a lawyer present, but the mother sung like a canary. According to her, Cody's father, Gerald, had been nothing but an abusive prick. He had often beat her in front of Cody when he was just a child, and when he got older, he started hitting him too. 4 years and 5 months prior. "I'm sick of this, Dad. I'm not sticking around anymore. I'm done with your bullshit," Cody yelled as he quickly packed his bags. His mother watched him do it. Tears welled up in her eyes, but she made no move to stop him. Down the hall, Gerald was cursing up a storm, drunk as usual. Cody grabbed his backpack and stormed out of his room and down the hall, about to head downstairs when stopped by his father. Gerald slurred out angrily as he stared down at Cody. "I am your father and you'll do as I fucking say."
Cody just scoffed and pushed past him to go downstairs. "I'm going to David's house across the street, you can't stop me." Next thing Cody knew, he felt a harsh force against his back and he was falling, tumbling. He rolled and tumbled down the stairs till he reached the bottom head first, his neck snapping in an unnatural angle. To this day I still think about the encounter with Cody in the bar, how I was too drunk to notice how the bartender had been staring at me in confusion and concern, and how Cody looked like he hadn't aged since high school. I don't consider myself a spiritual or religious man, but I know I wasn't drunk when I went into those woods, and that it was Cody's voice I had heard in those woods. All I know is that Cody would be properly buried somewhere, and that hopefully now he could be at peace, and his father get what's coming. Because if what I'm thinking is correct, he has a special place in the deepest pits of hell.